The flower did not know where her confidence was coming from. She attacked the flower that created a golden ring around for a while. The flower got shocked and asked that how Chioer had that power. She cautioned her and asked her again about the poison she had given to Yu Hao. The flower told her that she had not given anything poisonous to him, and she said that before because it was the rule set by that person, and also there were not many herbs left. The person wanted to make sure that people would only come there with the intent to save someone. He also wanted to see if people had the courage to go through the test. Yu Hao ate it, which meant he would sacrifice everything for the person he wanted to save. And with that, he had gained her approval. Chioer questioned what did that mean. That person called it a personality test. If someone would dare to eat the fruit without hesitation, it proved that he was a good person. The fruit Senior Flower gave him was actually a type of immortal herb which was suitable for him, and he should be thanking her for that. She also warned Chioer not to use that power again, and told her that even though she was not able to hold against that power, Chioer would have died too with her if she had used it. But Chioer did not care a bit about that, and as long as the Senior Flower won't hurt him, she won't hurt her either. The potion effects had started to spread fast. Yu Hao decided to fight for defense line with his soul power and would prevent it from spreading. But it did not work, and the poison had started to spread in his bloodstream. Half an hour later, he was still sitting on the ground with his legs crisscrossed. He was almost at his limit. He was trying to close his blood vessels, but then he realized that would stop his heart and he would die from lack of oxygen. He contemplated that what kind of poison was that, and why was it so hard to resist? He could not hold that anymore. The poison reached to his brain through his blood vessels. He thought that it was specially designed to target and damage his brain and his spiritual eyes, but as soon as it had spread into his body, he was like flying in the air, and his eyes and brain felt more comfortable than it ever was. He wondered whether that was really a poisonous potion. He then got up, felt amazing, and was upgraded to a demonic, detailed, and survey version of himself. He questioned if his spiritual eye had evolved, and it seemed like the potion that little plant gave to him was not poisonous. His spiritual power had reached to the level where he could see things that had forms but no substance. He asked the Daydream Brother about what that meant. He told him that the level he had reached was known as immaterial embodied spiritual level, and almost 99% spiritual cultivators were stuck at that level and were not able to progress. Daydream Brother had first thought it would take 10 years for Yu Hao to reach that level, but he did not expect him to achieve it instantly after eating a single potion. The next realm he would have to break through was known as the realm of spiritual manifestation, and once he had reached that realm, no one in the world would be his match. He found it very amazing and was very thankful for it. Chioer looked in his eyes and asked what was happening with them. He looked in the mirror and informed that his second martial soul was awakening. She questioned if she should be happy about it and if he was fine or not. The Flower Senior also told him to be happy about it. He got reminded of his childhood that his mother had suffered so much pain because of the very same power. He started to question his existence, that why was that all happening to him? He asked the flower if he had not eaten the potion, what would have happened with them? She responded that those kind of questions could ruin their relationship and briefed him that not taking the potion would have proved that he was a very egoistic person, and there was also a possibility that he was likely to leak the information about that place. And according to the person that had come to her ages ago, they were able to do anything to stop them from getting out of there alive. And if he wanted to live, he would have had to rely on his strength to get out. He got frustrated after hearing that all. It meant that if they had left without permission, all the soul beasts there would have attacked them. He found this thing very horrible and thought that with every 100,000-year-old soul beast at every turn, it was impossible to think about defeating them. Chioer started to think that his choice had really saved both of them. He asked the flower about his next test. She got shocked and asked if he was not about to thank her. The potion she gave to her was the full moon piercing autumn dew. It was the most suitable one among all the immortal herbs she had. She also added that he would have suffered a lot if she had given him something else. He thanked her and asked about his next test. The next test was a test of power, and he would fail miserably if he was not powerful enough. It was just to prove whether they could trust him or not, and it was going to depend on him alone. If he did not have enough strength, he was not able to keep it for long. Yu Hao had to wait 10,000 years for someone to take that test. Flower Senior started to cry, saying that he had no sense of humanity. It was painful that there was no one to talk to her, and when she had finally found him, he denied of what she wanted him to do. She knew the best person to assign him for that test. She screamed out the name Ajiao twice. Turned out it was also a flower with fire ashes increasing around it. It called the Senior Flower a stupid weakling and very talkative. It blamed her for disturbing its dream. They both questioned what flower it was and why was its temperature increasing rapidly. Flower and Equal Sign Senior requested it not to say that and asked to test Yu Hao. She added further that if he would pass, they would finally have someone who they could give that thing. Zhao agreed, but he kept a condition that he was only going to test a person who had cultivated as long as him. She responded that it was no use for them, and they would have died that year if it weren't for his help. She was about to ask Star Anise which was another flower who could test Yu Hao. Anger flashed in it as Zhao replied how she could compare it to Star Anise. It ordered Yu Hao to come towards him and conveyed that he was going to teach him what real strength was. Senior Flower encouraged him to go to him. His name was Blazing Sunflare, and he was also an immortal herb who had evolved. His cultivation was 100,000 years. She reminded him to stay cautious of his liquid flames. Yu Hao was getting nervous because of the difference of the cultivation base. He felt like he was being asked to go and die. Flower Senior then elaborated that he did not have to fight with him. He was going to just test him, and he just needed to pass in it. After his spirit eyes had evolved, he seemed to understand general feelings of other people, and when he looked at Cure, she seemed to be filled with full worries, and the senior did not seem to hold any evil intentions against them. It also appeared to him that the hostility from other herbs had also vanished when he passed the previous test. As he was walking towards Sunflare, he reminded himself that he was a soul beast who had a cultivation of 100,000 years, and with the environment support he had, Yu Hao was not his opponent, but according to Senior, he did not have to beat him. All he had to do was to try his hardest. As he arrived, he felt very hot near him. Sunflare got to know that he was absolute ice, and then realized why Senior had sent Yu Hao to him for the test. He was first testing whether his absolute fire was more powerful than his absolute ice. What he was about to face was absolute fire, which was equivalent to his absolute ice. The surrounding was Sunflare's advantage. Yu Hao would pass if he could beat it. He complained to Senior that it was unfair to him as their strength levels were not same. He further added to it that his absolute fire would be powered even more with his cultivation base. Sunflare warned him that could not leave that field as it was to prevent others from getting hurt, and he would lose if he would leave. Yu Hao insisted him to just kill him directly instead. The hot air coming from Sunflare had started to burn his lungs, and to him the absolute fire seemed to be stronger than Sister Ma Xiaotao's dark phoenix. The flames had started to condense into a shape, and a female human was created from it. It looked like a body made up of solar energy, and it also had strong killing intent. Yu Hao found it very amazing. She took out her sword, and all the nearby fire particles were gathering towards it and grew so large in such a small amount of time. As he observed her, he realized that she could receive limitless buffs with the surrounding to her advantage. He took his shadow ghost perplexing steps and attacked with his ice blast, but she blocked his attack. He was shocked by seeing her copying his footwork and thought it was impossible and activated his instant teleportation. All the physical attacks were useless against her, and she got the buff upgrade again. There was so much fire on her sword that contained enough power to kill him in a blow. To compete with it, he attacked with his last dance of absolute ice, which meant the final dance before death. He compressed most of his soul energy in that attack, but she had blocked that very easily. The fight stopped for a while, asked the senior flower if she had helped her. He got furious that how could she call that a test if she was helping her that way. Senior did not bother what he was saying and responded that she was just protecting herself as he was trying to attack her. She warned him not to make useless excuses if he did not have the strength to defeat her, and notified him that he won't get the book if he would be defeated. He was almost running out of soul power, and that female human was recovering instantly whenever she went near to Senior. He did not know what to do to defeat her. Chor ordered Senior to get rid of those wines or else she was going to break them with force. Senior responded that the test was for him and not for her, and if he was interested in getting the book, he would have to pass the test. Sunflare interrogated Yu Hao if he still wanted to continue. He of course wanted to, but he asked if he could leave that area to recover his soul energy a bit. Sunflare replied that it was up to him, but he could not guarantee that the other plants would not attack him. Senior thought that he had a good temper, and she could let him leave safely if he could not pass. He asked Sunflare if it would not be considered a fail as long as he didn't step out of the region. He nodded in agreement. He then took out his blazing fire gun and attacked the female with it. He shouted at him to be careful, asking if he was trying to destroy the surroundings. Sunflare had fallen in his trap, and he just had to delay the time a little and started to fly around. Sunflare wondered how he was flying, noting that he only had 5 soul rings. He chuckled, noting that Senior Era was outdated and that he didn't even know about the soul guidelines. Sunflare inquired if he had gone outside the field, stating he was now breaking the rules. He responded that he was still within the field limit, addressing him as Senior. Blazing Sunspring was getting on his nerves, so he used Freezing Extremity Spring that was its natural opposite. He mentioned that if Snow Empress were about a little bit, he would be able to use the last dance of absolute ice again. Snow Empress appeared, but had started to absorb the spring so aggressively. He realized that the situation was getting out of his control. She had evolved into her final form. That was not what he thought would have happened. It was getting extremely cold. Snow Empress was devouring every last bit of energy from the spring. He was freezing and was trying to explain to her that he could not hold it in himself anymore, and his body would explode if she was going to take more cold energy from the spring. It seemed that the only way for the Snow Empress to absorb soul energy was through cold energies, and it was to be fused with him in order to be used properly. But he was not able to take that anymore if that would go on. It was getting colder and colder as the time had passed. Sunflare demandingly asked him what he thought he was doing, and if he was trying to show off his powers. Snow Empress questioned him if he still wanted boast that small sparkle of himself. He counter-questioned her, saying that why she had extinguished his absolute flame. Sunflare yelled at her that it was a test just for Yuhao and not for her, and if she would even dare to touch him, even heavens won't forgive him. Snow Empress started to laugh at him as he said that. She had already survived heaven's punishment over 6 times till then, and that was the reason she had turned like that. Sunflare had decided to punish her right away. She wanted to see whether the heavens dared to touch her or not and started to attack Sunflare. He was getting defeated and pleaded her for forgiveness. She responded that he had no right to stop her. Yuhao requested her to stop and leave Sunflare. Snow asked if he had forgotten what they did to him. He explained to her that it was the paradise for plant-type soul beasts, and the yin and yang balance was a wonderful place even in the entire continent. He further told her that he was there to find the cure for Dong's disease, and if he died, he would not have been able to find the cure, and if that place was destroyed, the damage would have been irretrievable. If he died, not only would she die, but the Ice Empress would also die. He requested her again to stop doing that, and they meant no harm to him. She asked Sunflare if Yuhai had passed the test. He responded with hesitation that he has passed the test. She demanded to hand over what Yuhao took the test for as her limit of patience had started nearing. Senior Flower responded sobbingly that it was very difficult for them to cultivate, so they had decided to give them another gift and asked to show mercy on them. They handed over the book. Snow mentioned to Yuhao that those two contained pure soul energies that had been cultivated for at least 10,000 years and thought that it was good for him. She decreed him to take the book. She then continued by telling him about his body, and it was that the soul energy she had absorbed and which was stored in his body at that moment was about to cause a certain amount of damage in the near future. But if he could overcome it and survive, it would be of great help to him. It was all up to him, whether he could get them or not. There was so much pure soul energy accumulated inside Yuhao's body. He felt like a balloon that could explode any time. Every inch of his body was throbbing in pain. He had no energy in his body to turn on his flying soul guide.